Good morning, SIcamous Bible Church. It's good to have this opportunity again to share with you. This past Monday was my day off, and I was able to retreat outdoors and burn some of the debris in my backyard. That felt good to be outside. What a great way to spend my time in isolation and enjoy the beauty of God's creation. I was also able to take time out with churches across Canada for a day of prayer and fasting this past Wednesday. We focused our prayer time around Psalm 95. We first reflected on God's majesty and His sovereignty, and thanking Him for what He has done in our lives and how He is the creator of all. This eventually led us to calling on God to heal the land of this pandemic in such a way that people would see God's intervention, and in so doing bring people to a face-to-face relationship with God. I've been reading a book for the last while called Pathways to the King by Rod Reamer. In it, he's looking at Psalm 63, where David, at this time, he's on the run. And he's probably on the run from his son Absalom, who's tried to usurp David's throne. In the midst of this turmoil, David could have prayed a lot of things, particularly to be delivered from his enemies. In other Psalms, that's exactly what David did. But in Psalm 63, David chose to focus on God and to be in His presence. He chose out of all the things he needed, it was God's presence he needed the most. This was the only lasting thing that would sustain him. For us, during these uncertain times, let's put our focus on God, the Creator and Sustainer of all. Let's focus our attention on spending time in His presence. I want to read for you Psalm 63. You, God, are my God. Earnestly I seek you. I thirst for you. My whole being longs for you in a dry and parched land where there is no water. I've seen you in the sanctuary and beheld your power and your glory. Because your love is better than life, my lips will glorify you. I will praise you as long as I live, and in your name I will lift up my hands. I will be fully satisfied as with the riches of foods. With singing lips my mouth will praise you. On my bed I remember you. I think of you through the watches of the night. Because you are my help. I sing in the shadow of your wings. I cling to you. Your right hand upholds me. Those who want to kill me will be destroyed. They will go down to the depths of the earth. They will be given over to the sword and become food for the jackals. But the king will rejoice in God. All who swear by God will glory in Him, while the mouths of liars will be silenced. King David is remembering his time with God in verse 2. He writes, I have seen you in the sanctuary. David had an encounter with God. The Hebrew word for seen is seer, someone who saw visions of God. David encountered God in a supernatural way, and it was this encounter that he remembers in the midst of turmoil. He longs for God's presence once again. In verse 1, it tells us that he's longing for God in a dry desert land where there is no water. Jesus in the New Testament tells us that He is the living water that gives life. David knows that life is being in God's presence, so this is what he called out for. He called out for God's presence. It is what he needs to sustain him through these difficult times. We are in difficult times, and we desperately need to be in God's presence and to seek His face. As you go into this coming week, I encourage you to spend time with your Heavenly Father. Call on Him. Read through Psalm 63. Put yourself in the psalm and allow God to satisfy you. May you praise your Heavenly Father as He satisfies your soul. Then go and encourage someone else with the encouragement that you have received. like to end our time with 2 Thessalonians 3:16. Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace at all times and in every way. The Lord be with you all. May God bless you and have a great week.